Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Jeff Heilman Project podcast, your go-to podcast for the systematizing of success in both family and business, because that's who we are. We are a family-run business, and that's straight out of Tommy Boy over there. Zelensky, the auto parts king, doing this podcast after this many seasons and this many episodes, over 150. Jeff, I thought today's episode would be a good episode for touching base, for reconnecting, for just talking about what's going on in the family. What projects are you currently working on? Because it is the Jeff Heilman Project. I know I have projects that I'm working on. I know you have projects that you're working on. And this is spring. It's April. This is the season and the time to really recalibrate and focus and see, how's 2026 going? What's up?
I'm seeing a bunch of things coming together. Number one, when we think of social media, I am starting to think in terms of filmmaking as a discipline.
I noticed that you've been doing reels just about every day on Facebook.
I've been doing reels, and reels are the output, but I think social media is the medium, but I think filmmaking is the discipline, and I think storytelling is the what, right?
Madeline and I will be recording episode 3 of our podcast this Friday. We have new episodes that drop every Friday, but we're doing it a little different. We are now going places, and so almost like a travel vlog. We go places on Monday. We come back in studio on Friday, talk about where we went and life things while we're gone. It's just been fun. I don't know that that's a film necessarily, but it's between 20 and 30 minutes of recorded content on video and going out and recording out in the world.
You guys know that I love 1910. 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, that whole, from the Belle Epoque era all the way through Art Deco, Post-Impressionist, and Fauvism.
The Roaring 20s.
Yeah. Hemingway has a quote. He says, if you want to get to know a country, spend time in the bars. And so I've been, not every night, not even every week, but a couple of nights a month, I've been going out and getting a drink and hanging out in bars and just observing and seeing, what are people talking about? What are the conversation flows like? What does dating look like? What do dudes out with their bros on a Friday night look like? Like, it's not just, you're seeing so many dynamics in people in social settings, and spending time in coffee shops and spending time in libraries, because I've been doing paperwork and research for some contract work that I've been doing. What I'm seeing more than anything is just loneliness, just absolute poverty from a social recalibration perspective. I'm seeing the same thing in reels on Instagram, social media. People are saying, what do we do about this? How do we make friends? Like, people just want friends. They want friendships. They want intimacy. They want closeness. And that could have nothing to do with sex or even members of the opposite sex. Single moms on Instagram saying, how do you other single moms feel this same sense of friend stuff? I saw one gal influencer was asking, hey, is it the same for guys also? And what's the problem statement behind it? And I think it is the same for guys also. I think that guys just don't talk about it. Guys are more alone in their loneliness. And you and I both know, right? We've got God in our hearts. We've got Jesus. And as long as you are a believer in God, whether it's our Christian faith or a different faith or dialect, if you have a relationship with your Creator through prayer and meditation, you're never really alone. But from a social perspective, there's a lot of loneliness out there right now. And it's not just loneliness and pining for sex, or loneliness and pining for physical touch, or loneliness and pining for contact with members of the opposite sex. It's just loneliness. And I think that the problem with that is that people are living their lives on their phones, and phones are getting the dopamine, but they're not getting, if we're doing, I'm not Andrew Huberman, don't pretend to be, but if we might be getting the dopamine, but we're not getting the oxytocin.
Well, I know that for centuries, even before centuries even before the invention of the light bulb and electricity, people would congregate, they would get together for their, it was the way that you got news. It was the way that you would share and you would trade your goods. And so there was a real strong sense of mastermind groups. There was a real strong sense of being able to hear those ideas, being able to try out new recipes, being able to go and do all these things before the sun would go down, right? Because once the sun goes down, typically the farmers go to bed, the agrarians go to bed, the people that, you're not reading because candlelight is expensive. You're probably sitting by the fire and you're warming up, and then you're having a cup of tea, and then you're going to bed. So there was actually a very condensed period of time, let's say between sunrise and sunset, in which all of the work, quote unquote work, would be being done. And in that work was an immense amount of coming together, an immense amount of community, immense amount of calibrating together and creating the very foundation for what we have as countries, not even just Americans, all countries everywhere. There's one thing that we all have is a limited amount of daylight, and the country that you form is going to come out of that period of daylight of calibration. I can see where now that, now that we have perpetual sun, because we have electricity and the lights never go off, we have perpetual access to being able to shop because we have online shopping and we can shop 24/7. And we have the internet, which allows us to stay out of the libraries and get whatever information that we could and stay out of each other, and don't even have to ask anybody any questions because you've got, Uncle Google who's ready to answer any of your questions. It's very isolating. It's a very lonely way to live if you do not consider disciplining yourself to, like you said, belong to a gym or have a regular routine where you go out to restaurants. Successful restaurants will have like a happy hour or a only on Tuesdays do you get meatloaf, and everybody's got to have that meatloaf, and so they come together.
I hate to say it because I don't mean to endorse a replacing of church or a replacing of religion with something secular necessarily, because I think that church is sanctified and special and set apart from any other type of social engagement. And I think it's important that I just want to give a voice to anybody out there. If you're Catholic, if you're Christian, if you're Muslim, I'm not saying don't go to church at all. I'm simply saying it seems like restaurants and bars and coffee shops have supplanted or put wedged their way into society as the place between home and work. I know Starbucks' entire goal was to wedge itself into society from the very beginning as the place you go between home and your workplace. And I think that churches can continue to step up. I think ours absolutely is, with a church building and
we have
8 years
coffee,
of presence in Morgan Hill, and
have,
coffee and outreach for singles and outreach for teens.
Land to, I mean,
Absolutely.
there's plenty of opportunity. I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, a few years ago, I know I was praying about it, and it was definitely I was feeling led that, the coffee house is the new church, and the businesses are, the restaurants are the new church, in the sense that if you're going to go into a COVID pandemic situation in which churches you're not even allowed to congregate as a church body because of regulations or curfews or whatever, then when you do get back into church, there's a new habit that needs to be formed. It just needs to look different. It can't be the same. It's more about how can we bring people together and have them still feel as if they are remaining at home. All of the new Starbucks and their remodeling, you walk in and you look like you're in a living room. You look like you're in somebody's house. There's a reason for that, because they're trying to bring you a little bit out of your stay-at-home post-pandemic mentality of home, I don't want to ever leave. And so they're thinking, well, if I can just kind of duplicate home, and then we'll get people coming back in, because people started making coffee at home. They're making coffee at home now. What do we do? Well, we got to bring the home to and so you'll see, at least in our church or in more organized in a more organized body. I hate to say organized religion because we are anything but an organized religion. Is that as they
Better than
bring
disorganized
as
religion, I
they
can tell
bring
you that.
home into the church, as you walk in and you see couches and you see a lobby and you see coffee and you see pastries and you see those kinds of things, it's not going to be as unfamiliar.
I want to make sure we're not going down a path of the how-to. I'm not talking about what color couch to put in your church.
Oh, no.
I'm talking about the need that people have. People are lonelier than
Yeah,
they
we
have
could call
ever
this
been.
episode "Put a Couch in Your Church."
Put a couch in your church. You could call it that.
Jeff and I have talked about starting to instigate Sunday dinners at the house and inviting people, making it an open invitation to come to our home and do a Sunday dinner. I have See You Friday podcast. Well, I'm like, hey, see you Sunday. We'll invite a few people, potluck style, and it's less about the food, and it's not, used to be my desire was to be the perfect hostess. Like, this was pre-pandemic, pre-COVID. This is like pre-Martha Stewart going to jail. I was like, okay, if I invite people over, I want all the napkins pressed. I want the flowers perfect. I want that.
Letitia
But now
Baldridge.
I don't know if it's because I'm almost 50. I don't know if it's because we're post-pandemic. I don't know if it's because we're just so hungry for having fellowship. I'm thinking in my brain, if I just throw some noodles together with some butter and like some salt and butter, just good noodles, and invite some people over, I bet we're going to have a damn good time,
There's different ways of meeting this problem, right? If we say the problem is loneliness and we look at the root cause of that is that people's attention has shifted from watching television and going to work to spending their entire lives on their phones. I think there's different things based on different demographics. I think for boomers and above, Sunday night dinner is great. I think from a sanctified, and again, this is with all due respect to people of faith and different religions, from a sanctified position, I think that people need spiritual restoration in their lives. I'll just leave it at that, right? Do you have to go to my church? No. Do you have to read our Bible? No. Are those good things? We think they are. That's how we get our spiritual restoration. But we're not here to say that's what's for everybody. But I do think that it's okay to talk about the fact that spiritual restoration is a basic human need. And that basic human need is not going to be met through spending our lives on our phones for most cases, right? Also, from a work perspective, I'm looking at different work projects right now. And my thought is about how do we reach people for new products and services that will improve their lives? It's not television advertising because people don't watch TV. I remember when TV ad spend was replaced by internet ad spend like 10 years ago, the parabolas shifted. So we know that influencer marketing and that digital and social media marketing is not only commonplace, but the majority of the spend for ads right now. What do we do about millennials and maybe some Gen Zs? I think that I think the loneliness problem is more, what happens when you have a disease what's the word for it when you always have it? Chronic.
Yes.
I think loneliness for millennials is more of a chronic condition because they've lived their entire lives on their smartphones. Their entire adult lives have been on their phones. You and I didn't even get a smartphone, 2007. So I was 33. I was like baked, done. You is an adult. You are in corporate America.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there is a sect of generation that has a chronic situation. But then I also think that it is how you're raised, what your upbringing. Like our kid, because we were both, we raised our kids to have time limits, to approach the phone just like you approach anything else as entertainment, and to apply the discipline. Now, whether they choose to be disciplined with it or not, that's them. For example, as parents, we don't let our children have phones until they turn at least 13.
Like 13, 14 years old.
And that's not, I have friends now whose 6-year-olds have phones like that. And because they go to school, as soon as they go to school, which is at 6, they get a phone or they get some way to call mom, and they always have the phone.
Nessie's on your phone, but she doesn't have her own.
No, she does not have her own phone, and she
Teddy
does not have, she just has Wi-Fi. It's more like what we used to call an iPod.
We're not, this is not an anti message against phones. It's simply saying this is the way it is. This is the shift The shift is people used to meet in person. Like when I was a kid, my internet was the road that connected my house to my friend's house that I would jump on my bicycle and I would ride to his house to see if he was home. Understanding that, hey, if people's attentions, it's not that they're shifting to the phones. It already shifted. People live on their phones. And if we pretend that it's not that way or try to fight it rather than working with it, I think that we miss that. So I think from a boomer perspective, dinners on Sunday. From a spiritual perspective, I think church is a good thing for the most part. Do I think people should live as religious zealots and cram their dogma down other people's throats? No. Do I think that people need prayer and meditation and community with other people in a safe environment where they don't have to worry about getting hit on or being told what to do or have a subservient relationship with someone because there's money changing hands, even though, we donate to the church, and I think churches live on donations, so that's part of it. But there's not money changing hands from an employment standpoint.
I love our new location because we can walk to restaurants within, I think if you can find a place to go where you would have buffets, you would have potlucks, you would be able to get together and have your fellowship time, because really it's more important to have fellowship with one another. And that if you have any idea, maybe you're not a believer, but if you have any idea of what it means to be a believer, let me tell you, it's so much less about whether you're saved or not, because 9 times out of 10, us as preachers and pastors, we don't care if you're saved or not. What we're really considering is your heart. Where's your heart at? And we know that the best place for your heart to be is within fellowship with like-minded people, because if our end goal was for you to come to Jesus and have salvation, it's more important that you get fed first. We need to make sure that you're getting food. We need to make sure that you're getting family. We need to make sure that you're getting your physical needs met. And then we should talk to you about Jesus and eternal salvation. But we want to make sure that you're getting your fellowship needs met. And a real big part of that is going, like, we can now walk to lunch afterwards and wave to people, and you start seeing your regular servers, and you start seeing your regular people driving the carpools or the taxi cabs or the whatever.
Yeah. And this isn't, we're not here to sell church, right? This podcast is not a Christian podcast. It's not a church podcast. We are Christians. We are people of faith. From a secular perspective, I think prayer and meditation and recovery at a spiritual level is important. From a social perspective, is it wrong to go to bars? Is it wrong to go and hang out at coffee shops? Is it wrong to go and hang out at libraries because you should be with your family, or you should be at work, or you should be, I think that being at the library for the last, 6 weeks, 8 weeks that I've been, it's full.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a college campus library where people are studying because they have reports due. These are 85-year-old guys standing over a puzzle, and people from India sitting as a family reading books together. And San Jose is very culturally diverse. Mexican, Korean, Indian, Chinese, Cambodian, people from the Philippines, people from Norway. You see people studying. You see people working on their master's dissertation. There's a guy from Israel who comes in and he sets up his multi-monitor spot in the same spot every day. And when he's not there, I kind of steal because he's got the best spot. But if he comes in, I defer and I give it back to him because this is like his spot. He's a software developer, and he doesn't like working in his own corporate office because it's downstairs and there's no windows.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to get out of his office that he could go to that all of his other developer buddies are at. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a developer. A gal yesterday was software developer at Starbucks, sitting across the table. And then sitting next to her were 2 other high school friends doing their homework. And then there's this guy over in the corner, a retired colonel working on lawsuit stuff. Like, when you look at the shift of attention, why are the libraries, the bars, and Starbucks full all day, every single day? Why is that? If you could get everything you needed from being plugged into your device, you wouldn't be doing that. Even though people are on their devices at Starbucks, they're still doing it in community. And to me, that is a call to action for churches. It's a call to action for people who do podcasts and content creators. It's a call to action for people in corporate life, because people need to understand, look, they're spending all their time on their phone, and it's creating this this social, spiritual, mental, and emotional and physical vacuum between what's possible in an ideal peak performance state, which is why we go to the gym, right? The gyms are full. The hot tub, full at 9:30, 10 o'clock last night. The hot tub was full. There's 8 guys in it. Sitting, being in community. If we fail to understand the need that the shift to living on our devices has already done, I think we miss an opportunity to live our best lives. I think we miss an opportunity to be as healthy as we could be. You miss an opportunity to reach out to people who could be included in your group and come to be a person of faith if they are looking for that type of restoration in their life. And I think that your family structure, one of the things I've learned from having some time to think and rest, watching movies. You and the kids have watched thousands and thousands and thousands of movies. And I'm not exaggerating. Thousands of movies. If they're watching, just say 4 movies a week for 50 weeks is 200 movies a year times 30. 6,000 movies, right? Not including going out, not including all the TV shows and stuff. I didn't get it until recently. Movies and video games in community is what we're talking about. It's actually a benefit. Binge watching shows or like the kids, catch up on The Office and stuff. When I came home from the gym last night, Andrew, Sam, Madeline's +1, Osh, Maddo, and I think the dog were on a 3-person couch.
Yes.
4 people were on a 3-person couch.
Yes.
Watching a movie in community.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about with this, right? Mm-hmm. They were on a device collectively called the television, but they were doing something in community. And I just think we're missing something if we don't pay attention to that.
I think dopamine is great. I think combined dopamine is even better. I think that we made the statement so like, well, a three-chord strand isn't easily broken. Like 3 straws together, you try to break them, or 3 pieces of bamboo together, you try to break it, and it's unbreakable. We've always applied that in times of stress or duress. Like, well, we'll just come together and we're just going to be strong. But what about in times of joy and in times of fellowship? A 3-chord strand is the same. It's not going to be easily broken. And if you can create core memories, if you can can have a good feeling, and you meet somebody else, and the 2 of you have a good feeling, and then the 3 of you have a good feeling, and then the 4 of you, and now you've got a community of not even like-minded, just like feeling people, in which you've got 10, 15 people. I mean, how much fun is it in a situation when you're like watching The Amazing Race and you've got like 15 people who all have to bungee jump together? Like, you can just tell that there's a level of electricity, that there's a level of vibration through the atmosphere that's electric, and it makes you want to also have fun too. It makes you also want to play. And we always go back at the Jeff Heilman Project on the importance of playing it away, taking that time to go throw the ball, go meet somebody at the park instead of at some business office. Go meet them at the park and sit down and have a good time together. We really appreciate it.
I think it's really important. Yeah, Play It Away by Charlie Hohen. Talks about he started having meetings throwing a baseball back and forth with somebody, and that started his path to recovery and restoration. And I think, I'm not trying to be overly dramatic here and say that everybody has to go and throw baseballs for their meetings, or that we have to do the thing where you lean, the trust test where you drop somebody on their butt if they
ropes course
if you're not
or whatever.
paying attention. Yeah, that is a mockery of what I'm talking about. Okay?
But what I would suggest everyone read is get Bob Goff's book, Love Does, because he will definitely encourage you to think a little differently about having fun and about being able to be with people.
Yeah. And create
an environment.
The kind of environment that allows people to relax, right? Yeah. And if you can, not a TED Talk, but I did about a 12-minute, it wasn't even a keynote. It was a 12-minute speech, I guess you could say, at one of my last engagements. And the entire thing was about being predictable. I think the reason why phones are so addictive is because they're predictable. People can count on their dopamine hit. They're not going to necessarily get their oxytocin and their other bonding drugs from it, but they will get their dopamine from it, and it's predictable as a result. And I think that if you want to create the kind of environment where people can just relax and be themselves, it starts with being predictable, which allows them to be able to test the waters and get to a level of respect, whether it's in business or church or what have you. And then from respect, you can have a friendship build, right? And then from that friendship, that kind of acts as the foundation. And I guess if there's a message or a point to this whole thing, is that by being predictable and by recognizing that people are very lonely, I think you will have an opportunity to create the kind of environments that will allow people to get to know you as a person. And I think that will lead to a richer life with more opportunities, more jobs, more money, better church growth, if that's what you're into, better family dynamics at home, and hopefully a richer social ecosystem of the people that you're connected to in your friend groups and in your social structures. So
What do you think? Let us know at the Jeff Heilman Project on social media, on YouTube. As always, you can check out our website at jeffheilmanproject.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And let's build a community together. We're all a bunch of projects. What are you working on?
Myself more than most.
Have a great one, guys.
Thanks for
See
being
you
with
next
us.
time on the Jeff Heilman Project. Bye-bye.